Hello, I'm the DIY Dad. My name's Richard. Me and my family are leaving the UK for good, for a warmer, sunnier life abroad. But we are currently living in the UK quite cheaply. And we're going to go through some of these ways that we've created a cheaper life. The first big one which has helped us out is we had a big 4-bedroom house at the base of the Pennines in a place called Milnerby. It was a lovely house, and during COVID, the prices of houses in rural areas went through the roof, and we were really lucky. So we said, right, if this is going to be the case, we're going to sell, because we just started homeschooling, our kids, and only I was working, and we actually couldn't. We're thinking we can't afford to keep this big house if we decide to do this life change. So that was our first big life change, and we made quite a bit of money on that house because right at the end of this time, we were really lucky. It managed to sell. It took a while to sell, but when it did, it allowed us to buy a smaller 2-bedroom house, which we didn't now have a mortgage on. Partly some of this is luck, partly some of it is financial. We have lost 3 out of our 4 parents, so we've inherited a little bit of money. So this has helped us a lot. Now, would we give that money back to have our parents back? Absolutely. But this is the cards we have been dealt. So we don't have an option. We inherited a bit of money, that went into the house, and then with the extra money we made on the bigger house against our smaller house, we managed to pay our mortgage off. So, first tip is don't have a mortgage. And I know what people are going to say. It's really difficult paying a mortgage, paying rent. It's all really expensive. I know it is. It's horrific right now what it's like in the UK. And I'm afraid that's one thing I just can't help with, because everybody's different in their finances and their family. So that is the first one. But our mortgage on this house we've got here was actually quite small. It was about $350 a month. Our bills cost more than that. So if you can live in a smaller house, then live in a smaller house. We've got, our 2 kids are young enough that they still share a room, so that's okay. So that's the first way that we're living cheaply, is because our house doesn't have a mortgage. But personally, I would actually prefer that we had more family around, and we'd been dealt a different card, but we can't do anything about that. The second way we live cheaply is I gave up work. Work cost me a fortune to go to. I used to do forestry. I used to actually live in a caravan away from home, and that was about 60 miles. So I was spending a lot on fuel. The things I spent money on were fuel, food, a caravan. What else did I spend money on? Chainsaws, chainsaw gear, training, which was horrifically expensive. So when we decided to leave the UK completely, I gave up work. I just gave it up because it was costing so much money for me to go to work. Could I get another job? Yeah, I am doing things. I've got irons in the fire at the moment, which I'm doing in order to make us money for when we leave. But that actually saves a lot of money, actually giving up work and getting rid of all the things that cost money. All those things which were liabilities. So recently, I had a lovely van. I loved my van. It was a 4-wheel drive VW transporter. It was fantastic. You get loads of stuff in it. You get to take the kids out. I could use it for work. But I didn't do work. I wasn't working anymore. So what we did, I sold the van and we bought a car for 700 quid. Now, how does that save money? Well, firstly, we made a big profit on the van by selling it against the little car. The little car was 700 quid. It's nothing. The insurance for my van was coming up, and it's going to be about 600 quid. That's the cost of that car. So for us both to be insured on the new car was about just over 200 quid a year. So we've saved money by having basically a crap car. The car's worth nothing. But we saved money on tax and we saved money on insurance because it's not a big vehicle and the tax value is lower on it. So that's costing us about 50 quid a month to have a car. Without the fuel, of course. Now, the fuel consumption of my van was about 29 miles to the gallon. The car's doing 68, so we've over doubled it. So we've halved our fuel cost as well. So we don't have a mortgage. We've halved the cost of owning and running a car. So that's a massive reduction. What else do? We go to Aldi to shop, and we go to Tesco's for stuff we can't get in Aldi. And we limit the amount we buy. We try not to buy expensive stuff in the shops because the price of food now is horrific. So that's one thing we're doing. Another thing is try and be careful with what you're buying. Look in your cupboards, because I keep looking in our cupboards and look at all the tins and things we've got, and I'm like, we don't need to buy more tins, to stack them all in the cupboard. So just have a look in your cupboards. Are you overbuying things? Because we were. I'll admit that. So that's another way that we try and limit the amount of food. In terms of heating our house, the cost of gas and electricity is it's been high for a long time. So we hardly ever have the heating on in our house. So our house is generally pretty cold. And we tend to we've been buying coal and some wood recently. I used to get wood free. That's how I used to heat the house, because I used to get wood from work, cut it up, season it myself, and then we'd burn it. So they used to have a big stock every winter. But because we're leaving the house, I don't have that now. So I've been buying some wood and we've been buying coal. And that's, for us, is quite a cheap way of heating the house. We're actually getting the house up to a decent temperature without spending a lot on gas or electricity. Now, we home educate, so it's quite expensive to go on days out, so we don't often go and do expensive things. You can go to things like farm parks, and the price to get into some of these places now, it's like 70 quid, for the family to get in, and the zoo's 30, 40 quid. So we go to, there's 3 hubs we go to. We limit our spending. We have a limit that we spend on going out. And if we go over that limit, we'll go and do free stuff, like walks in the woods, walks around local towns, things like that, which don't cost any money, but education, where you can teach them trees, and wild animals, and all loads of things that nature can teach kids. So that's a way that we, as a family, try and go out cheaply. We don't go out to eat that often, and if we do, we look for deals and things in pubs. We found that we're not a great fan of takeaways. Because of where we live, takeaways don't deliver to us. So if we want to go and get a takeaway, we have to go and drive and get it. And most of the takeaways locally to us are, to be honest, actually quite disappointing. The food's not good, it's too salty, it's really quite bad for us. So we don't often have takeaways, which are a very expensive way of eating, certainly in this country now. So that's a way to save money. Just have less takeaways. And I think really that's about it. We just limit the way we live is limited. We don't have a dishwasher. We don't have a tumble dryer. So those save us on electric bills. We wash up in a normal way. We use our hands and then stack it. So that's something else. We live in a way that probably people lived 30 or 40 years ago. We just limit the amount of stuff we buy, and we are not high consumers of stuff. We're really, really not. We've got a TV that we bought 2 World Cups ago, I think. It's ancient. Does it work? Yeah. We only buy things that we need. With the consumer lifestyle nowadays consists of people advertising you. Every single thing you see on Facebook, on YouTube, when you go out, everything's an advert. And they're trying to sell you stuff because they want to make money off you. And when you realise that, you look at something and say, I don't need all this stuff. And us leaving the UK, we're getting rid of everything. We're leaving with a suitcase each. So what you need is your family around you and to be happy. That's all you need. So we don't upgrade phones constantly. We don't go and upgrade TVs constantly. We certainly do not buy a car on finance and then lose half its value in the first few weeks. We do none of these things. We live a very, very simple life. And that's driven us, I think, to more and more extreme versions of what we want to do, to a point now that we believe that the house is now a liability. We've got money in the house, but it's not usable. And we're living very cheaply because of it. not enjoying our lives. So, can you live cheaply in the UK? Yes, but not for long. You know, we haven't got long the way we're living before we run out of money, so we have to leave. And that's just it. When we leave the UK, we're going to rent, well, in the UK for a couple of weeks before we go. And that is going to be probably our biggest expense before we leave, is just finding somewhere that's relatively cheap to live. Because it would be more expensive for us to now go to an Airbnb than it is to live in the house we're in now. But that's something we need to cross to achieve our dream of travelling with our kids around the world. So if you like what you see, subscribe and follow us on our journey, and we'll find out where we go, because we don't know yet.